We call this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call? Councilman Spivey? Here. Councilman Marino? Here. Councilman Beard is on his way. Councilman Wilson? Present. Councilman London? Present. And City Clerk's on his way. Can I get a motion that we'll approve of the agenda? So moved. Got a motion, got a second by Councilman Wilson. All in favor? Aye. Aye. There's any public comments on the agenda items only. Public comments on the agenda items only. All right, we'll go into the deliberation of the agenda items. Council, what we're going to do is Resolution 2016 R177. We're going to push it to the back because we haven't done interviews for the municipal judge. So what we'll do, we'll go through the other items, and then we'll come back to that after we interview the judge, if we're ready to move that resolution forward. Okay? All right, resolve resolution 2016 R185 to support the Irondale Education and Youth Fund Committee recommendation to fund grant request for Irondale Community School in an amount of $2,000. Can I get a motion that we move?
I move that we adopt resolution 2016 R185.
We got a motion by Councilman Marino. Got a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Spivey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Resolve the resolution 2016 R186 to support the Irondale Education and Youth Fund its committee recommendation to fund grant requests for Gresham Elementary School in the amount of $1,174.45. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve resolution 2016 R-186.
We got a motion by Councilman Wilson. A second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. City Clerk, we decided on 2016 R177 to push it to the end until after the interviews.
Okay.
Okay. And resolution number 2 and 3 has already been moved and passed. Wilson, yeah. Councilman Wilson did. We'll move back. Councilman Marino moved it. We got it. Okay. All right, number 4, resolve resolution 2016 R187, support the Irondale Education and Youth Fund Committee recommendation to fund grant request for Irondale Middle School in an amount of $4,175.41. May I have a motion?
I move that resolution 2016 R188 be adopted.
Councilman Marino moved, second by Councilman Wilson. All in favor?
187. 187.
187. Yeah, 187.
Yeah,
Okay.
187. My apologies.
Got a motion? Got a second by Councilman Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, resolve the resolution 2016 R188 to support the Irondale Education and Youth Fund Committee recommendation to fund and grant request for Jefferson County International Baccalaureate School in an amount of $883.16. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve resolution 2016 R-188.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Wilson, second by Councilman Marino. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, resolve the resolution 2016 R189 to support the Irondale Education and Youth Fund Committee recommendation to fund grant request for Shea Valley High School in the amount of $7,683. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2016 R189.
Motion by Councilman Spivey. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Marino. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. At this time, we have public comments to the council at this time. Yes. Who we have tonight is Ms. Davita Battle. Ms. Battle does our appeals, and she won't be wanting to come by, so I told her she'll have time tonight to come by and let the new council and the mayor meet, introduce herself tonight, and just kind of let us know what's been going on. So you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and to members of the City Council, and welcome to the new members members of the council. My name is Levita Morgan-Battle, and I, along with Lenise Washington, have been handling the appeals from municipal court over the last several years. And I wanted to just come and have an opportunity, first of all, to meet the new members, the mayor, and to also talk about what this last year has been. And you should have a packet, a little black packet before you, which kind of gives you, for the new members, some of my background and my experience. And as well, I have a report on the status of the cases that I handled this last year. I did, this year, we had two things that I thought were of specific note that I wanted to share with you. One was a case where there were 2 or 3 appeals that came to circuit court that, and once a case is actually appealed to circuit court, it is a trial de novo in that instance from municipal court. And it involved family members in this community that were really experiencing a lot of strife because of a particular person who had torn down the fence, burned up firewood, and done some really threatening things to that family member. And what I realized was that if we took that through the appellate process in a trial de novo in circuit court, that the likelihood of being able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt would have been very difficult because there were no witnesses to the incidents. But these were family members that knew who was responsible for these basically acts of terror in their community. So what I did was to enlist the community mediation program at Cumberland to come in and to get both the victim and the defendant across the table from each other, to have some dialogue about what went on. And in that process, we were able to get the defendant to agree and to fix the fence that he had torn down and to pay back money for the destruction of property. Those are 2 things that you would not have been able to get through the criminal appellate process. What you would have been able to get under that circumstance would have been either time behind bars, and that was it. So my understanding from talking with the circuit judge who handles this is that this was a case of first impression using community mediation. The community mediators were there at no expense to the city of Irondale or to the municipal court, and it allowed the parties to both get counseling from their churches about the incident and about learning new ways to handle conflict resolution. So it was an opportunity, rather than taking the case straight through the process, to see if we could try to resolve some of the problems and conflicts in the community. And in that case was resolved with the defendant paying court costs, which we assured in each of the cases, but also doing those things that we were able to achieve in mediation that we would not have, in other words, the criminal court judge would not have had jurisdiction to even get those things done, but we were able to get those done. The other significant case was a case involving sex abuse. And we tried that case for about a week in circuit court. And we had really good cooperation from the police department for all of the officers who were involved in that case. They came and testified and participated in the trial. And at the end, I think I've shared with a couple of the members, we had jurors in the jury room who were arguing with the one juror. We had a hung jury in that case, 11-1. But we think that this was a significant case. It involved a minor, and we had surveillance tape that showed that this particular defendant had not only touched the victim in this case, but had stood behind and observed another child that was in that facility. So that case is now reset for trial in February, and we're moving forward on behalf of the city on that to try to see if we can get some resolution to that particular case. So I just wanted to give you those 2 highlights, and I did share, I think you can see my resume, some of my other background, some of the other experiences that I've had. So I'm delighted to be able to do the work that I do for the city of Irondale. I'm available to do whatever it is that you have for me to do, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about it. Any questions? Thank you so much.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that's all we have on the agenda until the interviews starts for the judges. City Clerk, do you have any announcement or anything?
No.
An announcement? I tell you what, why don't we, I know it's not on the agenda, any councilor, you have any, an announcement, anything that maybe one in your district or would like to know?
I do. Councilors, y'all want to go first?
Please.
Yeah, I just want to announce the Cop Stop program that took place in District 5 on Saturday. I want to thank all the ones, all the counselors and all of the citizens that was able to come out. And to be honest, we had a very good time. Met a lot of residents in District 5. We also had one of the our own council president do a dance for us, and it was caught on CBS 42. So I'm pretty sure everyone got a kick out of that. But somebody said they're gonna start calling them the dancing counselors. So, but we had a good time, and I want to commend. I don't want to call too many names, but I want to commend the Irondale Police Department, Mayor Moore, Darrell Washington, who was chairperson of the CDA, and Ms. Carolyn Jones and her staff. I just want to commend those people on a job well done. That's all I have.
I'll just tag on to that and say that when council president gets his dance lessons, I'll take some along with him.
That's all right.
I'd just like to ask Darrell, he didn't mention our business of the month coming up.
The Irondale CDA, every month we recognize a local business. This month we'll be recognizing Leaves Construction, which is a general contractor, very reputable in the Birmingham area. And so I think that December 20th, we'll celebrate with them. We'll come in and bring in lunch for the staff, and then we'll present them with an award and do a tour of the facility.
Good evening, boys and girls.
Is that what you're saying? I just want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the parade. I enjoyed myself. We had some packed streets, and for everybody that participated in the parade, I just say thank you. Looking forward to the 2017 parade. There was some dialogue on Facebook about it, some chatter. So there's officially been a notice served that District 2 will have a float. And if you are bold enough to step up against District 2, you will be, the competition will be exciting, let's put it that way. So I know we've already recruited a few people for District 2, or for the community of Historic Irondale. I don't know what we're going to do with it exactly yet, but I would encourage everybody to be as involved as they can so that we continue to make our Irondale Parade just as more and more as fantastic as it can be. That's all I have.
Welcome back, Councilman Bearden.
Sir?
You've been all over the world, I see. Glad to have you.
I've been out in a boat in the middle of the Pacific for 2 weeks, so I'm a little out of touch.
Glad to have you back. I'm glad you made it back safely. Glad to see you. But Ms. Battle came in. If you have any questions for her, I know you was here. But you know, Ms. Battle, she does our appeals, and she just came to kind of give us an update on what's been going on in the courts.
Okay.
Mm.
Sorry I'm late. I
That's okay.
thought the meeting was at 6, so that's the reason I didn't get here.
That's okay. We didn't think you was coming after being on the boat for 2 weeks.
We didn't get in until 11:30 last night, so I slept till about 10 this morning after unloading the car and everything.
Oh, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you back. Is there anything else? Just like you have anything?
Can we get this Marino to give a report on the arts?
Oh, yes, we can.
Come up.
One there for that. We had our second annual holiday market, largest crowd, and we had 11 artists. One was from Shea Scott High School, and the total sales, I got the artists all to give me a ballpark of what they sold, and we sold close to $4,000 worth of art, which is really incredible for the size of the event. A lot of positive comments from people. They came, and we appreciate everybody that did.
Thank you.
All the pictures look real nice.
Also, I got one other announcement. There's a spot for the Commercial Development Authority. I think, Darrell, we have a couple of resumes on that, and I think the council, each council has seen those resumes,
Same one.
seen one.
I haven't seen.
Haven't seen them, okay. We'll make sure we get the council a copy of those two resumes. So we can take a look at that. Any timeline, Darryl, we'll lean on you as
Well,
far as when you wanna,
The initial timeline was to have the resumes in by the 15th of December.
okay.
Currently, we have two people who have expressed an interest. So I guess from a counselor's standpoint, we have the qualifications on the website. If you know anybody that you think may be a good addition, by all means, before the December 15th, send the resumes to John or either myself. Then we can go from there as far as setting up interviews.
Okay. So we'll make sure we get those two resumes, and send them to your email so you can have them. Okay, we have them already, okay? All right, we got 10 minutes before our first interview starts. Actually, who do we have first?
Jim.
Bob, if you was first, we could have interviewed you right now, cool.
I'll be back at 7:30.
You want to go last?
Now I think James splitting lane.
Well, we can start you right now.
That's up to you, that's fine if you want to do that.
Council? Mayor? We good?
Good with me.
Mayor?
We were giving each candidate 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So we would have to just definitely, we wouldn't be able to cut him off at 6. We need to move that
We'll
to
give him-
6:15.
We'll give him
Okay,
the
fair
30 minutes.
enough.
That's okay, that's, you agreeable with it? Okay. We get you home early tonight,
Okay.
Monday Night Football.
All right.
Well, at this time, we know that Tony Bell won this election in circuit court, and we have to hire a judge to sit on our bench. And I think we got 4 excellent candidates, and Bob Summers is one guy that we're going to interview tonight. And so what I would like you to do, Mr. Sanders, to come up and just tell the people about yourself that's here, and then I'm going to turn it over to the council to have any questions for you.
And that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you all got a copy of my resume, and
Yes, sir.
James got it. So you know that I've been in Irondale I've been practicing law for over 30 years. And most of that time, with the exception of the first 2 or 3, I've been in the Irondale area. Started out east with Mom and came over and was on 6th Avenue South. And for the last 14 years, I've been on 1st Avenue North. Went to Birmingham School of Law. I was a little older than most folks, which means that I've got a varied business background. I've done everything from being a purchasing agent to doing sales and customer service and all kinds of things like that. I've got a general practice, although I'm slowly cutting back on some of the things, but I did criminal law, I tried cases both in district and circuit court. Everything from shoplifting to attempted murder. And I sat here in Irondale back when Mayor Kreider was in charge. I was a backup judge for Frank Parsons, who was the judge, and then Wayne Wheeler took over as the judge. I also was a backup judge for Graysville when the now district court judge, Bob Bynum, was up there, and then he ran for office and got elected, and then at one point, Graysville stopped their district court altogether. Philosophy, be fair, listen, be responsible, and hold people accountable. I mean, I think that's the best any person that sits as a judge can do. You know, everybody has different circumstances, and truthfully, every case is different. You find that out as a lawyer, and I think to a certain degree you find that out as a judge. One of the things I've noticed in Irondale that we don't have, that if I were appointed, I'd probably like to get with the council and the mayor and the chief and look at some, I know we've got, and a big issue has been indigency and what to do when someone comes in. I don't think it is fair to just let them go. But I think that it would be more than fair that if that was the case and they could prove that they were in fact indigent, there's a lot of community service that could get done. We have churches in the area, we could get with the churches. We have things that probably they could do for the city. And rather than just letting them go free or putting them in jail because they don't have the money. Going ahead and giving them some community service time, where in essence they're going to have to pay for whatever they were charged with and found guilty of. But in the same token, it's not going to be some folks like to say debtor's prison or debtor's jail. So that would be one thing I would like to explore. And with that, if you have any questions?
We'll start with Councilman Spivey. If you have any question for
What
Ms. Saunders?
strength do you have that you've developed over the years that makes you uniquely qualified to be the judge for Irondale?
Well, not just over the years, but patience, understanding, listening. I think you have to be a good listener, both as an attorney and a judge. To a certain degree compassionate, where compassion is required. Again, everybody is in a different circumstance, and not every case is the same. Obviously you've heard it on TV. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. In this case, the city prosecutor, maybe Brandon, and one of the other fellows from Mr. Walker's firm. But the burden's on them to prove what this individual did to substantiate the charge he was charged with, be it motor vehicle or domestic abuse, or whatever the case might be.
Just a quick one, over your 30 years of going in and out of sitting on the bench, about how many cases have you handled sitting as opposed to being the lawyer involved? Just round figure.
50, 75.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
My question, you've answered part of it already, but tell us what experience you have with the Irondale court system.
Well, again, I sat out here when Frank Parsons was the judge and Wayne Wheeler was the judge and Mayor Crowder was here. Can't even begin to tell you how many times it was. And I may lowball what I gave Steve because I go by cases that are tried or they plead not guilty so that you're going to have some testimony. Now, obviously, not everybody does that. You may have a docket of 50 and 30 of them will come in and go ahead and plead guilty to some of them and pay the fine and go on. So.
Okay.
Councilman Wilson?
Yes. Mr. Saunders, with roughly, I guess, over 30 years of experience, I think you said you had.
Sure.
What was out of the many cases that you've had, which one posed the most challenge for you? What type of case was it?
The attempted murder case.
From a municipal standpoint.
Oh, from a municipal standpoint? I'm sorry. From the municipal standpoint, I would say probably was a domestic abuse charge. And there was some question as to, in my mind at least, whether it was handled properly.
Okay.
Councilman Spivey is back on you. If you have any other question?
I'm good. I'm good. I'll answer your Bob.
Thank you.
You got any more?
Councilman Wilson?
No, I'm good.
I'm going to give you this opportunity to give closing comment.
Closing argument.
Closing argument.
If I was going to hire you, why should I hire you?
Why should you hire me?
Yes,
Because
sir.
I'm going to do you a good job. I think I'm diligent. I certainly go through the case law and go through statutes and make sure that we do everything properly. I think I've been fairly successful in trying cases. I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. I'm not going to necessarily tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what my view is of that particular case. And I think that's probably more important than anything, because a lot of times clients get very upset when the particular attorney they've been with has sort of blown a little smoke and don't want to break a case for thousands and thousands of dollars we're going to get, and that's not always true. I'm probably more critical and more on the downside than I am on the upside. But I won't lie to you. And I've never had a bar complaint.
Thank you.
Anything else?
You still have to close it.
I'm still closing?
You still have to close it, or?
I probably have three excellent candidates. One I happen to know because I practiced in front of them when he was in Trussville. You know, I'm an Irondale resident. I think that some deference ought to be given to an Irondale resident, and I know I'm not the only one, but simply because we push Irondale, buy in Irondale, shop in Irondale, try and eat in Irondale, and Irondale on the move. And I think it would be very advantageous to give back and put somebody on the bench. Not necessarily me, like I said, I know there's another person from Irondale, but I think it would say a lot to have a judge, and that's not to besmirch any other candidate, because you've got 4 good candidates, 3 good candidates, I know. I'll do you a good job, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders. Thank you very much. Very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chamberlain, I think you just come in. How you doing today, sir?
Fine. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great.
I'm on a little, I don't know if you had my resume.
Actually, we do.
Thank you.
Let me take
Terry here.
I see.
Mr. Chamberlain, we're gonna, I'll let you open it up. You know, you just tell us whatever you want to tell us about yourself and where you're from, and then we're gonna open up for the council to ask you some questions. And when they finish asking questions, we're gonna have you let your hand closing.
I appreciate
And
that.
also, first of all, thanks for coming, and thank you for being concerned about Irondale.
Thank you.
Yes.
There are a lot of good candidates. I went to school with some of them, and I am from Trussville. I do have a lot in common with Irondale. There is, Trussville gets some of your prisoners, so I see them from time to time, come in through my courtroom. It has its advantages. You know, I get electronic notification anytime a prisoner is put in Trussville, Argo, Irondale. See, Irondale prisoners will go through. It comes in and it reports to me as an Irondale prisoner, but I know when they're there. I think perhaps the best thing I could bring to this this position is experience. Things you don't learn in a book. I've been seminared. I've been judging in Trussville for 30 plus years. I'm past president of the Alabama Municipal Judges Association. I'm a current lecturer at the Judges Association, regular lecturer. I'm seminared to death. I have 25 plus hours of seminars, meaning carrying over from year after year. But I do my seminars primarily in municipal court law, judges conferences. I try not to miss any. The law changes. As fast as legislature meets, the laws change. But it is a challenge in today's world that we live in. You know, one of the things that, the problem that I found judging is this. People want to judge other people by their standards. For example, when you see someone in front of you as a person, you want to do what you would do as a person. You think if you get a fine, you're going to pay it. You people the people that appear before us, most of them don't have that ability. Heck, in some cases, the fines and costs that we receive, that we issue, it's hard for me. It would be hard for me to pay at one time in today's world. But we, I call us norms, the normal, ordinary, responsible people or persons. Our problem is that we judge people by our standards. And we can't do that as judges. We have to see them as people who have different issues, different struggles in life. The people that come here would much rather be elsewhere. The ones that give us the problem the most are those that have a hard time making ends meet. They do the same thing over and over again. And you, as a person, you don't want to punish that person harshly, but that's not how they're made. They're not made that way. You've got to understand, when you find that person $500, that's, in most cases, that to us, that would be like $5,000 or $10,000. You could probably write a check tonight for $500 to pay your fines costs, but most people that appear before us as judges cannot do that. And we, judges, have to realize that they do have a hard time, that there's more to being a judge than putting somebody in jail. I tell people jokingly that when you go to jail in my courts, you've earned that right. You have to work at it to get put in jail. It's not something that you just walk up and I'm going to put you in jail. I look now, I require in my courts an NCIC report. So when I see a prisoner or a person standing in front of me and they tell me they've never been in trouble before, and I pull open the NCIC report, does that mean what about this city and this city and this city? So when I meet punishment or action against a person, it's because they have earned their right to go to jail. I tell people routinely that it is their responsibility, it is their case. Most people, I'd say 90% of people, get put in jail because they failed to come to court. This gentleman is more education from a court's perspective than a person. We got to take responsibility as judges that we're not educating the people that come in front of us. We have to make sure they understand that this is their case, it is their responsibility to keep up with it. 90% of people who don't come to court is because, who are in trouble, get arrested, is because they failed to come to court. 90% of them, okay? So that is something that we as judges have to deal with. Now, when I come to realize as a judge, when I put somebody in jail, I'm not just putting that person in jail. You understand? I am putting his wife in jail. I am putting his children in jail. I am putting his mother and father in jail. I am punishing the entire family because I'm taking that bread earner off the street. Okay? And that is an awesome responsibility that I take very dearly and very carefully when I weigh. Now, there's times that, like I said, people have earned the right to go to jail. They've worked at it. They have to work at it. Okay? You just don't. You're not going to walk up in my court and expect to go to jail that night. Now, true. If you've had this the third or fourth time that they have failed a drug test, well, guess what? They better be expecting they're going to go to jail. I tell them, I want them up front. When I go through the pretrial diversion requirements. So, but I guess the biggest, perhaps, asset I can bring to the city of Irondale is my experience. That is something that you don't learn in books. That is something I've learned over 32 years serving in Trussell and Argo now almost 25 years in Argo as the same judge. So, but I really look at it as public service. For example, I'm on the early warning panel for kids who drop out of school or who are having a hard time going to school. So I go to speak at high schools, I speak regularly at schools. trying to educate young men and women about courts and about life, about the decisions they make. I tell them jokingly, especially teenagers, to drive as fast as they can afford. You know, but don't. You just drive as fast as you can afford. I mean, you can go 90 if you want to, but you're going to be, you know, dealt with accordingly. Just think about it. But perhaps the most important thing that we have to remember is, and I try to impart this to everybody, the decisions they make in life dictate the kind of life they live. It does. The decisions they make, it's not on me. I tell them all the time that once the lawyer has finished their case, that they're going to be responsible for the case. The lawyer has done his job, and that's your job to do the community service, your job to pay your fine, your job to go to court referral, and your job to be in court when you're supposed to be in court. But you'll be surprised. I could ask Tommy back there that I can guarantee you 90% of people that go to jail is for failure to come to court. I deplore a warrant for failure to comply. Okay? To me, that is opening up some issues. I think the warrant should be issued for failure to come to court. Because every warrant that should be issued, what I would do is when they come, and I have three points. When they come to court, I tell them when to be in court again. Tell them you're supposed to be in court on this and such day. This is when your case is your first payment. And then I have them sign a piece of paper that says when you're going to be in court, acknowledging when you're going to be in court. And then if they miss, they've been given two notices, and they're on another letter. So they've had 3 points of contact in writing before we issue that warrant. Okay, now, so because I know once that warrant's issued, somebody's going to go to jail once they're caught, and it's going to upset the family that, you know, so, but we give them 3 points of contact. Okay? That's very important in my opinion. Education of persons who appear before courts are very important. I kind of ramble longer than perhaps I should, so I'll be glad to entertain questions from council and mayor.
We'll start right here, Councilman Wilson this time. If you have any questions for Judge Henry?
Yes, I do. Judge Chambly, one question I have is, what attribute do you bring to the city of Irondale that you believe that we need? I mean, since you're kind of familiar with our prisoners, is what you mentioned earlier, but what attribute do you bring to the city that you think we need at this time?
Patience, understanding people's standing in life when someone receives a fine of $300 who has, and spending the time with them in court, finding about their circumstances, just not assuming they're millionaires. Find out, I do it in little ways. I do it ways like, where do you work? You got a job? My first question, everybody always has a job, you know, but not always, but I find out where you live, how many kids you got, are you paying fines anywhere else right now? You know, things that many judges don't take the time with people who appear before them. They just assume they can pay. Assume they can pay $500 or assume they can pay. But it's very important to have patience with them, to educate them. So I bring, I think, an attribute of patience, an attribute of respect for the person that's appearing before me as a judge, to make sure that person is respected by me, that they show me respect, that they show the police officer respect, and they show the victim respect. My job is just as important to protect the rights of victims. It is also very important to protect the rights of the defendants who appear before me as a judge. Make certain their constitutional rights have not been deprived. Thank you.
Councilman Beard?
Do you, if any, what experience do you have with the city of Irondale's court system?
I've said it 2 or 3 times. I know Tommy very well, McNabb, know Donna. I've been out here. I'm familiar with the files, the system they use out here. And so I'll bring that experience. I don't deal with the prisoners, obviously, unless I'm sitting as a judge, but I've said 2 or 3 times over the years, maybe 3 or 4 even over the years. Tommy's been here, how many years you been here now?
23 and a half.
Now, that's probably more like 8 or 9 times I've been out here, probably over that length of time, so. But yes, sir, I've been here a number of times, I understand. I believe, Mr. Baird, that everything that happens should be done openly, in public. Me sitting right there, the defendant standing right here, when the lawyer's out here talking about the case, I want the defendant here listening to what's going on. I think it should be open and what's going on.
Thank you.
Councilman Reno?
You mentioned as you were rambling through, as you put it, the community service aspect as an alternative. What do you see as community service alternatives?
Well, with, for example, juveniles. Let's take the juvenile. Similarly with, my policy is this. First offense, speeding ticket. I require them to go to driving school. I require them to do 20 to 40 hours of community service. Some type of community service. It can be for the city, it can be for Brian's. We have a number of them that we use. But I think because, understand, the speeding ticket that goes on a child's record affects the family. It just doesn't affect the child. It has an impact that can negatively impact the family. Plus, you gotta get some skin in the game for the kid. Okay? Who's gonna pay the fine? Mom and daddy most of the times, unless you find as a judge that they work and they have the ability to pay. I never ever want a mother or father to pay the fine. It does not teach the child anything other than the fact that they go to mom and daddy and get bailed out of trouble. This is their ticket. They earned it. They got to work through the issues that have caused this problem. They've got to work on it. It's not that, so it's important. There are times that I will do 20-hour community service and pay a fine and cost. But the community service to me for a child is getting skin in the game. They hate it. I mean, they don't want to do it because they know mom and dad will bail them out. But something they have to do. Can I tell you how many people have come up to me over the years and said, thank me for sending the community service when they were younger. You know, keeping it off their record as they got older, they understood, they learned the importance of it. Now some don't. Some you're going to see, but they only get one bite of the apple. You know, I tell them, I said, this is it. You know, the next ticket goes on your record. So make it count.
Thank you.
Councilman Spivey?
Being the fact that you serve currently as the judge for the city of Trussville and for the city of Argo, I'm sure both of those municipalities have a caseload associated with them. How do you anticipate being able to manage the caseload also associated with the city of Irondale without slowing down the process of the court?
Very good question. There is no way that I could do it without folks like Tommy McNabb working. The clerks are critical for me to do what I can do. I have a law practice. I practice in Grayson Valley. I've been there almost 20 years. So it's impossible. There's no way I can do it. So it's my job to make sure, one, the magistrates are trained properly. Two, that they're doing their service. That's on me. Now, understand, gentlemen, that if anything happens negatively in our court system, it's on me. It's not on the magistrate. It's not on you. It's on me as presiding judge. That is my responsibility to make certain. So I have what I'd like to do, and I haven't talked to Tommy or anybody about this, but I would like to, right now y'all do Thursdays at 3. I like to go to Thursdays at 4. I have Fridays in Argo, but I'm moving into Thursdays at noon. So, but I'm never past 4 o'clock in Argo. So I have Trussville's on Thursday. We're getting ready to move into noon on Thursdays. Again, I should be finished by 3 o'clock. If it doesn't work, I may. I know we're closed. The Irondale, if I remember right, it's closed on Fridays. The city's closed on Fridays. So, but that. I got Tuesday, we talked about Tuesday possibility of doing it Tuesday at 3 o'clock, but city council meets, I remember right, on Tuesdays here, so that leaves me Monday, but I have 4 days a week, we will make it work. So, don't get me wrong, I would be honored to serve in Irondale, I would. But I understand, that's a very good question. Yes, sir. My wife's asked me the same question.
Family is important as well, so.
Yes, sir.
I said I wasn't going to ask any question, but something jumped out on your resume that I'd like you to speak on. University of Alabama Drugstore presentation designed to increase drug awareness among Birmingham youth. What is that all about?
Well, it's not in existence any longer. That's one of my past experiences.
Okay.
It was an opportunity to speak to high school students about drug awareness. And I have presented programs at Trussville High School, one of the smaller schools concerning drugs and drug awareness. I do that, haven't done it in 2 or 3 years, but yes, I spent an hour with the incoming students in a setting of auditorium setting, speaking about the dangers of drug and explaining to them that, hey, Mom, I guess you gentlemen know, by the time most people are in middle school, they've seen drugs.
Right.
They've been exposed to it. So the quicker we educate the students, the quicker we're all, quicker we're going to, the better our results will be down the road.
Just by you saying that, how involved would you be in our schools here in Irondale?
Whenever I get invited, I go. Whatever a principal wants, whatever a teacher wants. I am very active. I understand I am available 24/7. Part of my services, I believe, 24/7 for court clerks who call. I get calls at all. I've done this last month in Trussville, I did 2 or 3 warrants for blood searches for traffic accident involved. The person would not agree to a blood test, could not blow. Injuries involved, they wanted blood drawn, so I had to do a search warrant on that person to issue an order. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm talking to a police officer in my bedroom, in my study at my office, at my home, preparing a motion and a search warrant, an order for blood draw. So, hope that answered that.
That's the thing.
I am available 24/7. I mean, it's part of my service. I don't just answer questions to Tommy when I'm here. If he needs me, he knows how to get me, and he knows I'm available for him at any time of day or night. And the same for any police officer. They will learn of my availability.
Councilman?
Yeah, John, I got a
Yes,
follow-up
go ahead.
question,
Go
if I
ahead,
could.
Councilman Beard.
My question was what experience you had with the Irondale court system. You mentioned you knew Tommy and some of the other magistrates, but in your resume it says you served as a special municipal judge. You didn't mention that. What is that?
That means I'm not a full-time judge, but I was appointed by the mayor to serve as the acting judge on occasions. So anytime I came out, my familiarity with Tommy is coming when I've been sitting as a judge for the city of Irondale. I have served at least 8 occasions that I can think of over the years for the city of Irondale.
Okay.
As its judge.
Any other council? Councilman Wilson? Sir.
So,
Councilman Moreno? Councilman Spivey? Mayor, do you have a question?
I will just say a follow-up to Terry's question there. Terry, he served last week here also, and our judge could not, so just as an example.
okay.
The one question I'm interested in of all the candidates is the importance of keeping the flow going so that the courts don't get log jammed. And I think our court, Tommy, I think you've indicated, you all made great strides in that over the past 3 or 4 years. Could you speak to that and how you?
Yes, sir. You got to understand the system, okay? And it's educating people. The first step is educating the person to understand the first time they come to court is a chance to plead guilty. It's called arraignment. It's their opportunity to talk to the prosecutor if they want to, but plead guilty if they want. So I tell them before they want to plead, I said, listen, these are your options. Trial, talk to a lawyer, talk to the prosecutor, or plead. If you plead, this is what's going to happen to you. Many people go ahead and plead. They know, because I tell them this is for sure, this is what's going to happen. I call it acceptance of responsibility. I tell them, I don't want you to accept responsibility if you didn't do it. I don't want you to just plead guilty to be getting done with the case. It's very important to me that you plead guilty because you're guilty. But so, flow, in my opinion, the flow is only as good as your prosecutor and public defender are. They can slow the process down. They can speed the process up. Here in Irondale, they speed it up. It's very effective, will I change the way they do it? The only way I would change it is give the person the opportunity to plead guilty without talking to the prosecutor. If that's a choice, but I tell them, what does it hurt to talk to the prosecutor? You may like the deal, you may like what he works out for you. So what does it hurt? And that's what I tell them. I encourage them, I encourage them to hire a lawyer, but the flow is critical. It is, you're exactly right, Mayor. I can do, in Trussville, 150 defendants on traffic night, just traffic night. That's without the prosecutor being present. I can do them I start at 4 and I'm through by 6. That's 180 defendants that I've seen in that time frame. I tell them I go fast. I spend about 5 minutes talking to everybody, showing them what forms they're going to be, telling them I'm not going to repeat this, this is it, this is your education. If you want a trial, say not guilty. If you want to talk to the prosecutor, you have to come back on another day. Now, we now have a new prosecutor, and he's going to be there days, traffic days, hopefully to talk to people. So they don't have to come back on another day to talk when the prosecutor's there. But yes, sir, flow is critical. There's no way that, one, it gives the appearance that, the flow of courts gives the appearance that we've got it together. You know, it's important to the public to see that, it's important to victims to see that, that the flow goes good. It is critical. I cannot tell you how important it is. You're exactly right.
Any other question from the council? Okay. In the next few minutes, you could close, and as you close, could you speak out on, that's another thing, the family court, gun court program, is that still
No, sir.
allowed? That's not allowed?
Not.
All these good programs gone now, all
Yes,
this
sir.
is,
Yes, sir. Now, Judge Chambliss is a friend of mine. He and I had been to many seminars together, and he was, I don't know if you remember, he was a municipal judge in City of Birmingham for many years before he, but he's a great man, just a fantastic, he's got a heart for kids, he's got a heart to make sure things get done right. So, yes, but Raymond handles those gun cases differently now than he did before.
okay.
He actually puts them in jail, you know.
Well, you take this time to close out, and I guess in your thought process, let us kind of give us a picture of what our court would look like if you was our judge.
All right. And please don't misconstrue me. This is how I do it. I believe prisoners should be here in court. I don't believe they should be in a back room anywhere. I think they should be in public to hear what's going on. I think they should sit right here. When their case is called, they should come up. Should they be in handcuffs? Yes. Should they be in shackles? Yes. Okay? They're prisoners. They could run, you know. If we have a prisoner, the police officer tells me that there's no way we can get him in here safely, then I'll go to wherever I need to go to deal with it safely. But we don't have the issues anywhere else that I have them here in court. Again, it's very important to educate people, so I would spend a few minutes of each proceeding to educate them, tell who they are, explain to them this is their case. I cannot tell you how critical that is. Even when I would not have them come to court to pay. Okay? We don't do that in Trussville or in Arco. What we do is this. We have them fill out a form. First off, they tell me what they can afford to pay. Not me tell them this is what you're going to pay. That's the first fallacy that we have as individuals, that, again, we're putting that hat on what I can do. You got to remember, this is a mother with 3 children who don't even get child support from their husband, is trying to make ends meet, working 3 jobs. You can't even pay gas to get to court. So, to her, $10 a month is a lot of money, or $25 a month is a lot of money. So they tell me what they can afford. When they tell me $100, I'm looking and I find out where do you work, what do you do. I can tell how they dress, how they hold themselves. I said, look, you pay $25 a month, if you can pay more, pay more. But they fill out an order that they sign, and they make the payment anytime between today and 30 days. And I give them the date that's due them. I said, now listen, you come in to see Tommy, make your payment at your convenience during business hours in Irondale. And if you can't pay, come back and see me. Because what's going to happen when you don't pay, Tommy's going to issue a warrant for your arrest because you didn't come to court. So if that person doesn't have the money, Tommy says, you got to see the judge on this day because he's the only one that can change the payment plan. I can't change it. So it takes them away from the court system and puts them in Tommy's realm. Okay, now is it going to put more work on Tommy? Well, it's going to shift the work to Tommy. It's going to take him out of the courtroom setting. When I said the other night, I was reviewing people that should have been being handled by Tommy rather than me because they had to be, you got to understand, they come in and they've been sitting here 2 hours and they're tired and they've been doing this for eight months. Gentlemen, I hope you don't get mad at me, but I forgave a person of the fine. They had been paying fines to this city for over 2.5 years. And we had failure to appear after failure to appear. And it started with a small ticket. Okay? That's not right. And I stopped it. Be it right or wrong, but that was my prerogative as a judge. Said, and she left here, pitch Tommy. And Tommy was glad because he has to hear her driving, her complaints. He has to issue the warrants when you don't come back to court because you don't have the money to pay. So, but I would do it differently. I would. Now, the city has entered into an agreement with the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a little different from Trussell, but Trussell has done likewise. Argo has done likewise. And I will honor that. And it should, we'll follow that. Don't like it, but again, because it's going to put police officers at harm's risk, because they're the ones that want to go out and serve the warrants for failure to appear, because there's going to be an uptick in failure. You watch, and I told the city of Trussell when we went through budget hearings to adjust the court's budget by maybe 40% less, because under the Southern Poverty Law Center plan, almost everybody gets to do a signature bond. So they'll be in and out of, they'll be out of jail before they even finish the paperwork. They'll be that quick. They'll be released that quick. Now, do we like it? I don't like it, but it's understanding the system. I saw everybody in Trussell's court within 48 hours. I saw them on Saturdays. I saw them on Sundays. If they called me and said, "Judge, we got a prisoner due right at 48 hours," I'd go see them. I would talk to them to see if I could get them out of jail. I don't want people in jail who don't need to be in jail. I don't. So, but I cannot tell you, gentlemen, how critical a court clerk makes this system work. It is imperative. And to have trust to somebody you know, and I know Tommy McNabb, and I know how he's going to do it, and I'm fine with whatever he does. He's not going to get me in trouble. I'm not going to get him in trouble. He knows the law. He goes to seminars like he's supposed to. He keeps up on the law. So, but that's a very good question.
Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
You got one other
I want to
thing?
just say one other thing. I heard a question that Mr. Wilson asked of Bob, and I know Bob very well. He's a good man. What was the toughest case that you had? To me, the toughest cases is when I take an 88-year-old's driver's license from them because they're a danger to themselves and others. Because I know that person is no longer can go to the store, can go to the drugstore. Their life has changed and altered. It's probably worse than a DUI. To take an 88-year-old person's driver's license, that's a tough case. But the hardest case I ever had was a death case in Trussell. Kid was talking on his phone, cell phone, crossed the center line, hit a grandmother, took her head off. Okay? Charged and convicted of vehicle homicide. 6 months in jail is the most he could get. Never done a thing in his life wrong at all. And that fleeting moment, he killed grandmother. Grandmother of 68 years of age, who worked at Cracker Barrel and Leeds all her working life and drove that road time after time. But just for a fleeting moment, a young kid from Hewitt Trussell High School with honors in college was just texting, not paying attention, across the center line in a truck, and she was in a low riding car, took her head off, killed her instantly. Those are tough cases. Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Send somebody outside for the next turn.
Is he outside?
Send somebody who can.
I think he's up.
Okay. Could you get him for us? Okay. Thank you for coming, Mr. Brown. Thank you. Okay.
It's actually 30 minutes.
I know. That's pretty good. I kept picking up that clock over there.
The other one was, yeah, you were right on.
Yeah.
No longer.
Good. All right, Mr. West, come on in. The way we're doing it, we'll allow you to open up. Just tell us what about you, wherever you want to tell us. And then we're going to allow the council, the mayor, to ask questions, and then we'll give you the closing, just like you do in the courtroom.
Thank you.
All right?
Good evening to the judge, the council, and to the citizens. It's a pleasure to be here before you, and I have applied to be Irondale Municipal Court judge. I am a candidate who have worked in criminal defense. I've worked as a prosecutor, and I've also worked as a substitute judge. Let's talk about those a little bit. I've worked as a criminal defense lawyer primarily for the last 16 years. I've handled all kinds of cases, you know, throughout the state of Alabama, not just in Jefferson County, not just in Birmingham, but all over the state. I've been hired by the city of Birmingham to represent police officers. I've been hired by the FOP to represent police officers. I was on the unconscious man's case, which was the trial was held in federal court, and the police officers were acquitted in that particular case. But I've also handled capital murder cases on the other side, and have had good success. I've only, in 16 years, I think I've had only one client that has received the death penalty, but most of them we have been able to get verdicts for lesser than capital murder. So I understand the law on the criminal defense and on the prosecutor side. On the prosecution side, I have worked for the city of Midfield for 5 years as a prosecutor over there. Have worked to support the police officers and the city of Midfield as their circuit, as their municipal court prosecutor for a number of years. So I tell you this because I've worked both sides and I understand both sides of the law. And as a judge, I understand that you have to be fair and understand the city side as well as the defendant's side. I'm probably the only candidate that have gone before the Alabama Supreme Court. And I didn't just go before the Alabama Supreme Court, I went before the Alabama Supreme Court and won my case. So I've worked on a number of appeals, and I tell you that because that shows you that I understand the law and I would be able to apply the law. I think another thing that probably distinguishes me from most of the applicants here tonight is I am invested in the city of Irondale here. My business is here in Irondale. I support other businesses here in Irondale. As an example, this is true. This morning, I ate breakfast at Jack's Restaurant here in Irondale. For lunch, I went over to Gus's Hot Dog. We have great chicken salad. I have a chicken salad sandwich on wheat. And, you know, these are examples of things that I do every day. Sometimes I eat at Golden Ruse, sometimes at Irondale Cafe. I support businesses up at Grants Mill Station. I have insurance through Farmers Insurance. Nellie does my alterations, so that's what my suits look with. And I didn't know David was interested in politics, but he can attest that years ago, you know, I've opened up an account at the Regions Bank, the Irondale location. Holiday Gardens is one of the neighborhoods they frequently call my office to speak at their neighborhood meetings, and I've done that every time that they've asked. And they've asked me about purchasing ads in the little neighborhood newsletter that they were putting out for a while, and I've done that in every instance that they've asked. I'm a member of the Irondale Chamber of Commerce, and I think I also worked as a judge in the pageant for Miss Senior Irondale.
We won't hold that against you.
We did our best. It was a tough group. I've worked with the school systems. I've gone to Irondale Community School. I've worked a career fair with Delta Sigma Theta over at Irondale Middle School. So Shades Valley has asked for donations for their sports program, so I've contributed to Shades Valley. So I'm a candidate that's invested, you know, here in Irondale. I understand Irondale, I understand the city of Irondale, and the city of the people. And you just want to do right and be fair and make good decisions for the city of Irondale.
Ms. Taylor, thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll start,
Get the mayor to ask
All right.
his questions. Is that-
okay.
is that-
Mayor, would you like to have, open up a question this time?
The same one.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'll ask the same one I asked before, but before, I'll do a first part to that I didn't ask the other one. Have you had any famous tree cases? And then the serious question is, process. We have lots of folks that come before the court here. How do you see streamlining that process and keeping the flow going so that we don't get backlogged?
Okay. I did handle the Harvey Updike tree poisoning case, and we battled that one and got a pretty good deal. They wanted to give that guy the death penalty for poisoning the tree.
It was about football.
Important in Irondale.
But I don't discriminate, let me also say
In Auburn,
that.
excuse me, in Auburn.
But I don't
I'm
discriminate.
wearing Auburn hat today, you see.
There you go. There you go.
Back to the serious question.
I've also represented a basketball player by the name of Perez Ward, who was accused of point shaving with Auburn University, and he was federally indicted, and we got that case dismissed. And I was proud of that because we had a young man who was about 20, 21 years old, who could have had a felony record for the rest of his life, and we were able to get that case dismissed, and he's able to go on and do something productive in his life. And he was majoring in computer science at the time, which is what my undergraduate degree was in. So I was very proud of that. So that is Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah.
I can be fair and work both sides. As far as streamlining, let me mention this first. I have worked as substitute judge again for Judge Owens in drug court. I worked as substitute judge for Judge Brandon Chambliss, who is our presiding judge in family court, and you can call on those guys, and I'll list those as my references if need be. And I've also sat for Judge Deborah Winston, who was the judge over at Midfield. And I think that shows that I have the temperament, I have the ability to work these cases and work with the police officers who bring these cases and the victims who bring these cases and work on the defendant side as well. As far as streamlining these cases, I think drug court is a very busy case. And hopefully the majority of these cases will settle if you have a good prosecutor and a good defense lawyers who come in and work together and try to get good resolutions for their cases. But one thing I would like to do is implement as many programs as we can to avoid having to take a lot of these cases to trial and backlogging, so that we don't want to backlog the courtroom. I believe in trying to get defendants rehabilitated where we can, and I believe in trying to give them another chance at life where we can. So I know that we have some programs here in Irondale, such as the DUI programs. I think we have some domestic violence programs, some other programs where you can get your driver's license back. But I hope we can encourage defendants to come in and take advantage of those programs where they can to get rehabilitation, and hopefully that'll help us in backlogging the cases so much. So being here in Irondale also, again, I work as a prosecutor, so I've walked in and I've gotten a lot of these cases cold, and I worked so many years, 16 years, I think I understand a lot of the cases and the basic law of any case, especially that comes in through municipal court. Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure, basically rules 7 through 8 will handle almost all of the cases here in municipal court as well. So I understand the rules very well. But just based on knowledge and experience and what I've done, I think I've been able to quickly work through cases and being right here in Irondale, if there was some complicated case that came up, I could come in and put a little extra time, you know, being just down the road, and make sure that we expedite the process as much as possible here for the city of Irondale.
Councilman Spivey, you have the first question, second question.
Thank you for your time, Everett. As you've served on some of these higher profile cases that have garnered kind of a lot of attention, lengthy, you know, had to spend a lot of time deliberating and various things like that. As you've gone through those cases in those courts, what kind of nuggets have you sort of picked up along the way? We all learn stuff on the job. What have you picked up along the way serving in those high profile cases that you think you bring to the table that makes you distinctive?
Well, you know, again, I've had a number of high-profile cases, and you get asked a lot of questions, and you get asked a lot of questions by the media. And, you know, my undergraduate degree is in computer science and mathematics. I have another degree in music education from a junior college. I have an MBA, and I worked in space and defense in Huntsville, Alabama, for about 17 years. And I changed careers. Passed law, you know, finished law school, passed the bar, been working in the field of law for 16 years now. And I say all of that because, you know, number one, I love learning. I love learning, you know, about a lot of different things. And being a lawyer, you get to learn about a lot of different things. You learn about a lot of different laws, but you also learn a lot about different people, different scenarios, and have to handle those scenarios. I've worked some personal injury cases, so I've gotten a little medical knowledge over time, which helps sometimes. I've worked in voluntary commitment cases and at the psychiatric ward at UAB, so I understand some of the psychological issues, you know, that may come before the court at times. On the tree case, I've had to talk to horticulturists, so learn a little bit about that area. So you have to be a student, you know, of the law. You have to be a student of people. You have to be a student and sort of broaden yourself as much as you can, because there are instances when things come up in court, and things come up with my clients sometimes when I'm defending them, and they tell me things that I know, you know, might be hogwash, because, you know, they're telling me something technically that can or can't happen, and my undergraduate degree is in computer science. I'm like, you know, that's not true, or, you know, I think that might be true, just based on experience of doing other things and working in other areas. So I think those are just some examples of some of the things that I've picked up over my career. And I've not been a lawyer all of my career. You know, I worked in space and defense and went to work like, you know, most other people do, 40 hours a week. So I understand how things work for folks who work like that every day and have understanding and compassion for the hard-working folks that might come before the court as well. So I think those are some of those nuggets and some of those things that would help me to be successful as your municipal court judge.
Councilman Moreno.
Let's narrow it down to one thing. What's the one thing related to municipal type court that is your extremely strong suit? Not all the other, but specifically to the municipal court side.
In municipal court,
What's the strength you bring to the table?
I think the strength is I love people, and I want to see people succeed and be successful. And I'm involved here in the city of Irondale. I know the people here in Irondale. I know the police officers here in Irondale. I know the people in the chamber here in Irondale. I know people at the schools here in Irondale. I know people at the businesses. You know, I just don't go into businesses and conduct business. I walk in the businesses, and I can call, you know, individuals by their names, and they know who I am. And I'll come in and sit and talk to David and the preferred judge for the people, when you are a municipal court judge.
Councilman Beard.
What experience, Everett, do you have with the Irondale court system?
I have dealt with a tough prosecutor over there, on a few occasions. But, I have had a few retained cases here, so I've come in and I've watched the process, and I understand the process. I know your previous judge, Tony Bell. As a matter of fact, although he did have some experience when he first moved to Jefferson County, back to Birmingham from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I had a rape case that I was trying. And Tony came to me and said, Everett, I never tried a case in Jefferson County. He's tried plenty as a prosecutor in Milwaukee. And I said, well, come on and we'll try this case together. And within the first few weeks of him being here in Jefferson County, Tony and I did try a case together. And that's an example of what I do, just to try to help people and try to do good things and bring others along. But I have worked in this municipal court and various municipal courts throughout the state, the county. So, I mean, I think that helps, or will help me to bring, more ideas to the city of Irondale as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Wilson.
Thank you for coming. Mine is pretty simple. I know you've been very active in the Irondale community, like you stated. You've been involved with the neighborhood association. You practically know all the business owners here in the city. You definitely pay a business license to the city, and we appreciate that. But why do you want to be a judge in the city of Irondale?
Well, most of you know that for 12 years, my practice was based out of Birmingham, Alabama. I was downtown on First Avenue North, and my fiance, who lives in Holiday Gardens, was over here in Irondale, so I was coming over here back and forth a little bit, and just fell in love with the city and the people, and I began to learn some of the neighbors, especially up in the Holiday Garden area. And, that caused me to purchase a building, and I opened up a law practice here, and Shea Brothers recently purchased that building. And I moved up on a hill and Grants Mill Station. But I've worked in the community, which I've gone over already, and I just love the people of this community, and I want to be, would love being able to serve the people of this type of community. It's just a wonderful community, great people, and I'd like to be a public servant and do something good to help assist this community as it continues to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mayor? Well, at this time, Everett, first of all, I want to say thank you for considering Irondale your home. Thank you for being here tonight, showing that you really care about the city of Irondale. In your closing comments, I would like to just, if you could, explain to us, if you were our judge for the Irondale, what would it look like? And you got the floor, you got the next 10 minutes.
Well,
Now you're already prosecuted.
first of all, I hope that I will be able to convey that I love the people, and I don't, want to come in here being mean or people being afraid or anything like that. But at the same time, you want people to comply with the court orders and do what needs to be done so that they can be successful. So, I'd like to come in here and have the people to understand that there's going to be a fair process. We're going to be considerate of everyone, the victims and the defendants. We're going to be considerate of the staff that works. We're going to be considerate of the prosecutors. We're going to be considerate of the lawyers and trying to get the lawyers out as quickly as we can. We're gonna be as considerate as we can be. That's something I've always hated as a lawyer, just sitting, and I know citizens hate sitting, hour after hour in the courtroom. But I'm gonna work to be expedient and fair and make sure we get people in and out as quickly as we can. The standard is beyond reasonable doubt. And for those who are convicted, we're gonna try to mete out the punishment that's required, and as Judge Clement says, I hope we can put a little mercy and grace, along with that punishment when it is required. We need to make sure that there's not a black eye placed on the city of Irondale. There are some things that have gone on with the city of Harpersville. There was a recent article about some things that have gone on with Montgomery municipal courts. So we need to understand Rule 26 of the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure, or Rule 26.11, when it talks about fines and poor people not being able to pay fines, and we need to make sure that we don't get into any trouble with how things ought to be done. But for those people who are able to pay our fines and costs, we need to make sure that that's being done and done in time, because we know that that is a revenue that Irondale can use as well.
All right, again, we thank you for coming.
Let me throw out a disclaimer before you dismiss him. He mentioned that he was a judge for the Miss Senior Irondale contest. He was a judge last year when my wife was the director of the contest, not this year when she was a contestant.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again, Eric, for coming by.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Turned itself off. Too often. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, every time somebody gets up to speak, you gotta check it, make sure it's working. We need to get that changed, fixed or something. On and off switch instead of a button.
Okay, we're ahead of schedule. When you're on time. Mr. Barnes, you up?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I was waiting outside.
That's okay.
That was it.
That's okay. Mr. Barnes, I'll tell you it's kind of how it's gonna go. We're gonna let you open up. Just tell us whatever you want to tell us, and then I'm gonna open up to the council for questions.
Sure.
And then we're gonna give you the last word.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I left an envelope with the mayor. They should have left it.
We got it, thank you very
You
much.
got my envelope? Okay, fantastic. Well, y'all tell me when you're ready.
You're on.
You're on.
Ready.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of wired up. I came from Gunnersville and drank me a Coke on the way down here, and I was listening to some country music, so, I've got to come kind of off that, so if I talk too fast, y'all tell me. I was a car man before I became a lawyer, so, I keep wanting to sell all the time. You want to give somebody a hat or a ball or something, whatever you got to do. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to y'all, and I really appreciate being selected to, I think, the 4 or 5 you picked. You say, well, why do you've got a good job, why would you want this job? I appreciate the job I have a lot, but the reason I want this job is, I think that I can make more of a difference. I believe I can help more, and I've worked with the people here. I've worked with Tommy and Donna for a long time, and they do, and Melanie, they do a real good job, your magistrates do here. They're very professional, they treat people professionally, and they do the right thing. They're very, very good. And the opportunity would be to, whereas I think you'll see over the last 4 years ago, I believe, I can't remember, I know that Mr. Wilson, myself, maybe Brandon and Charlie and Judge Bishop all met. And we talked about the court system. We had a meeting in Billy's, and we talked about, and I told them my concerns I have with the court system. I had a lot of concerns then, because I didn't think that probably things were going the way they should have gone. And through the leadership of Judge Bell, of Charlie and Brandon, and the magistrates, you'll see, I don't know how many tickets or how many warrants were taken care of by Judge Bishop. The huge difference made in the court, what that huge difference means is in liability. You don't have the same liability you had before, but I believe that I can work with people here. But talking about making a difference, you got to look at a number of things when you have cases come before the court. Number one is you got to treat people with respect. Most of the time when they got arrested, they were at the lowest point that they had. Good people. They're not all people that are bad. A lot of good people get in trouble. Well, I'm of the opinion, this is what, when I'm judging, what I believe is, if the prosecutor gives me a recommendation, barring something unforeseen, I'm going to go by his recommendation. If a law officer tells me something is true, I'm going to believe it to be true unless we have facts stating that it's not true. I'm very pro-police. And I think that's very important, being pro-police, because police need to know that we back them, that we're behind them, that it matters what they do. A lot of them right here, they put their life on the line out here, and I've worked in cities where we had a law officer killed in the line of duty. And, you know, it's just words until somebody dies. Then it's not words anymore. Then you go to the reality, and you go to the funeral of the officer, and, you know, he was out here protecting me and you, and my family, and my mom, and my sister, and all the citizens of Irondale. My goal would be to continue the good work that's been done, but also make things, I believe in making a difference in people's lives. Like, if we have somebody that they have the opportunity, they can go to rehab and try to get over their addiction, I believe let them go to rehab. If we have somebody that we can try to work through their cases, like a lot of, this is the policy I've done to in the courts where I am now, there'll be people that have $2,500 worth of fines, and they aren't ever going to have $2,500. So you look back and you see, how did, what was the underlying charge? Was it a harassment charge, a domestic violence charge, a drinking and driving charge, a drug charge? Or was it speeding or having an expired license? I do this mostly, I'll ask them, I said, well, would you do 1 day in jail? And just get it behind you, where you don't have these warrants running you all the time. Or just look at their underlying charge and say, you know, what you did, you probably should have gone and gotten your license, but there's a certain amount of people can never get their license back. And I'm of the opinion you try to work through people's problems where they don't have those problems anymore. But you treat them with respect, you treat them fairly, and you try to do the right thing. Have a plan for their future, if you can. Let's talk about people that are juveniles, or people that are underage, under 21. I believe that if you get a ticket, that if you're under 21 years of age, that if you can, you need to go to driving school. If you can, because your parents are going to be paying that ticket. But the person that got the ticket, I'll work with them to let their parents, let them pay the ticket. They need to take some responsibility, but still, you don't need to punish the parent, in my opinion. You thing is that, or for me, what I think is really important, is standing behind the people. Number one is, I don't want to make the people here look bad. I had some of my older friends ask me, they said, Lee, you don't drink anymore. Why don't you drink, you know? You against drinking? I said, I don't drink anymore because I have a duty to the people that gave me a good job that I don't want to embarrass them. I don't want to go commit any crime. There'd be any suspicion, say I'm out here committing a crime, and I'm breaking the law. I think, you know, I hope y'all got my resume. I had a lot of good people write me letters of support. And that means a lot to me. The one Sheriff Hale meant a lot because I've probably taught over 1,500 deputies, sheriffs all over Alabama, the law, what the criminal law is in Alabama. And some say that it was a negative that I taught them the law because all they learned what I was learned, but don't any of them show up in the papers doing wrong, so I feel I've done a pretty good job, you know, but you got to administer law, you really need to know the law. You need to know the Constitution, you need to know the amendments to the Constitution. And we spent a lot of time on that at the Sheriff's Academy, and hopefully, you know, I can answer those questions. But I really appreciate the people who wrote me letters. It meant a lot. Judge Bell, that letter meant a lot to me from him and from Judge Bishop. But there, you know, there's some other folks, but you'll see the police chiefs where I work. I'm very pro-police. If you hire somebody if the police come tell me, I have a recommendation for them, I give them in the city where I'm the judge, I'd have to make a recommendation of what they think I ought to do with the case. What do you think? How do you feel? Did they cuss them? Were they ugly to them? You know, what did you do? You know, what do you think? I think having input from the police, you know, a lot of times they're not here to give input, but if they give input, you at least ought to listen to what they have to say. I think that's really important. And you know, the thing is, I really like working with the people here. We've worked together. We've worked through some very hard situations. I mean, some of the past council members know some of these things that came up in the last 4 years. We had one or two things that were, you know, then ended up were some of my clients that I had in jail that were problematic, but everything we worked out for everybody. It wasn't a problem. But I've tried to do the right thing by Irondale. Every time anybody's asked me, they said, would you help us? I've helped in whatever they asked me to help with, or tried to, and I've tried to not embarrass the city. And I think that's important, because it matters that you care, and you care about the people. And my goal, the law isn't punishment. It's trying to make you to come in, like you have a certain amount of people that don't want to come in compliance. They're just not going to. And our local citizens, we don't have much trouble out with local people. Most people we have through our court are people who are outsiders. People staying in the motel. You know, the pay by the week motel, or transients getting off the train. I mean, we have a lot of transient cases where people get off the train and I don't know the answer to that. I imagine that y'all, the city fathers, y'all knew the answer to it. You say, well, would you please set up your hobo station down the road? You know, but they do. And that's things we have to work through. But it's been an honor working for y'all the last 8 years. And I just would hope that you'd give me a good look, give me an opportunity. But I'll answer any questions you may have. I don't know that I've done a very good job presenting. I didn't make myself any notes. So if I may have missed something, if y'all have a question, I'll be glad to answer it and try to answer the best I can.
Okay. Thank you for that opening statement. And first of all, I'm not sure if I said it, but thank you for coming tonight.
Well, I appreciate y'all more than y'all do me.
Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm the one asking for a job. Y'all ain't asking me for no job.
Councilman Wilson, you want to start this time?
Yeah, I'll start. Lee, I appreciate you being here. And personally, I've known you've done some strenuous work for the city as a prosecutor here for the city, and you've done a very good job. One question I have is, you know, since you have the experience here in Irondale, what type of judge, since you go into, let's say you will move into this position, what type of judge would you be for the city?
I'm gonna be a judge that looks after City of Irondale.
Since you know that.
I know
the
all,
people that
I know
come
the
in.
people, I know it helps that I know the people involved, that's a very big help, because you ain't got to learn the system, you ain't got to learn how they work. But also, I think that the kind of judge you got to be is a judge that, number one, this is the best way you know the court, and the court says the police are doing a good job, when the city council ain't getting no complaints. When you're not getting a call saying, that crazy judge did this, or they just, I would hope that you would to represent the city with respect and being able to transition on the good work that's been done by Judge Bell and Judge Bishop. But Judge Bell brought a lot of integrity. It's not magic why he won his election. He is a fine man and brought a lot of integrity and did a great job. I think he restored a lot in our court system, in my opinion. And I would hope to continue what he, if I could do as good a job as Judge Bell did, I'd be a very good standard to set. And with Judge Bell and Judge Bishop, Judge Bishop's been my mentor for about 10 years. And I told him in another 10, maybe I'd learn something. He's a phenomenal person, better than the judge. But I would hope that it would be an easy transition, that you would not have complaints on something I did, that you would hear that it's going in the right direction. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have somebody out here that has a city ordinance case, that they won't clean up their yard. Well, everybody on the council wants the yard cleaned up. Really what we need is that yard cleaned up more than we need money. And so my goal would be to get the yard cleaned up. If there's any way to clean it up, get them to clean it up. Well, you've got to make you, the people here on the council, my goal is to make you look good in a positive light and do the right thing and stay within the parameters of the law. You can't do wrong, because if you do wrong, you will not be judging long. I'll guarantee it. So I hope I answered your question. I may have been too long-winded.
You did, Lee.
You know what I mean?
Councilman Beard?
Well, Lee, I don't have to ask you this next question, because I've known you, like you say, for 8 years, but I've asked all the other candidates, so will you too. Tell us what your experience with the Irondale court system's been.
It's been an adventure. I mean, I'll just tell you, it's been an adventure. I came in and I was replacing somebody that didn't leave on the best of terms, and and I didn't know exactly how things went. The judge prior to Judge Bell had a different system of working. Not saying his system was wrong, but it was just different. And what I've seen that Irondale's done is I really think I think you started at one place, everybody starts somewhere, but you end up where you are now. You have great people in place. You have your police chief, your police you have now. The morale in your police department, I think, is the best it's been since I have been here. And a lot of that, I mean, I know that may not attribute to the court, but the police attribute. How they are feeling or how they're doing really matters. And my experience with the court have been good. I've had very good experiences with, I guess I'll call people by their last name, Don and Tommy. I mean, I've worked with them very well. What I find is they want to do the right thing. Everybody says, well, what's the right thing? The right thing is whatever. The right thing is working it out for people where they don't have these problems anymore like they did have. And the city attorneys and the city prosecutors, they work. Everybody works. Times are different now than they were 8 years ago. And this is something I can say for the court front of the judge now. The Southern Poverty Law Center sent out a hit chart the other day of people that were non-compliant with what they want to be in compliance with, people they were going to sue. Well, everywhere I work, we're not being sued because we've tried to work with them and come up with a system, as is Irondale. Irondale's order is very similar to the order I've signed other places. I guess what I'm saying is that hopefully, if I were lucky enough to get this job, I'd hope to continue the good work that's been done. And I mean, if I said every day was positive, that would not be true. I mean, we've dealt with some people that were probably not the best folks in the world. And I've taken a cussing, been threatened to be killed. I had one that had 2 pythons living in his car with him, 24-footers. You know, can you imagine those two snakes rolling around that car with you? I asked him, I said, "What, are you afraid that snake's gonna eat you?" You know? No. I said, "Well, what does it eat?" You know, I don't know. I mean, we've had, you get a different kind of people. All kind of people come to the city court. But the answer is, all my experience with Irondale Court, at the end of the day, we're good. Very positive.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Rito? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Based on a question earlier, looking at your resume, and just so everybody in the audience knows, we did get the resumes way ahead of time, thanks to James, and had plenty of opportunity to review them before we came tonight. And you just seem like the old-fashioned circuit judge. You seem so busy. Where do you find time to have another municipality?
Well, I'm here anyway.
Well, just switch it over.
I'm here anyway, that's not, but the difference is, the one thing you have to do when you're the judge is, and I do this a lot for a lot of cities, is that, and I do this for the police, I have to sign a lot of search warrants. And my policy is 24 hours a day, if you need a search warrant, I'll come sign it for you. And I'll give you an example of how that's worked out well. We had a guy, that had 4 DUIs, ran over a 17-year-old kid, broke his leg down in Pelham. And they called me up and they said, "Would you come to the hospital? If we don't gather their blood before they give them some kind of narcotics in the hospital, the test is no good. And once the test is no good, they're gonna get off. I mean, you go hire a good lawyer, they're gonna win sooner or later." So I go down there, and my kid was having a dance at the school. And I told my wife, I said, "Well, I'm gonna go down here and sign this warrant real quick." So I get down to the hospital, I walk in the room, you got this guy, and he's all busted up. And he says, "Who are you?" I said, "The guy you don't want to see." He says, "Why is that?" And I said, "Well, I'm about to sign this warrant, and they're gonna take your blood." He says, "No, they're not." And I said, "Oh, yeah, they are." And I signed it, and they managed to get a felony conviction on him. And he made the little things make a difference. Or if we need a search warrant to go into a home, that you can't I understand my level as judge. I'm not a district judge, and I'm not a circuit judge, but in Irondale, I can sign a warrant to go search a home if there's probable cause. And they prove that to me, and I've done that. And sometimes it makes a difference, and it makes a huge difference. But I'm more than willing, if they call me, I'll get my car and come meet you and sign the warrant, and try to. So the answer is, I can work time in to make it, or I hope to. But I wouldn't see, I see no changes in the court. I mean, the way it's run now is fine, in my opinion. Yes, sir. Did I answer your question?
You're fine.
You can ask me more now.
No, sir.
I told you I was starving. I keep talking if you need me.
Thank you.
I'm good for 2 miles. If I drink another Coke, I might go another.
Council Spy?
Thank you for your time again, Lee, I appreciate you. How do your partnerships that you've established over the years, how do they make you the best guy for the job?
Oh, that's an easy answer, because the best thing that ever happened to me was going to work with Charlie Waldrop. I started working with Charlie. He'd be the prosecutor, I'd be the judge probably 14 years ago, and learned a wealth of information from the difference is he's seen virtually every case, and if you're smart enough to ask somebody that's got a little more sense and you're a little smarter than you, like one night I was trying to help somebody from the beginning. It was late, it was a Birmingham policeman, and her son had gotten in trouble, and I was trying to help her. And Charlie, and I wanted to be able to try to send the kid to driving school, get him straightened out, and Charlie came and told me, he says, "Well, this is the way you need to do it. You don't need to do it this way, you need to do it this way." Being smart enough to listen. Being able to be with Brad Bishop. I've been with Brad for about 8 years, and he is probably the finest municipal judge I've ever worked with. He's taught me a lot, not just a little. Working with really good magistrates. I've worked with magistrates. At the end of the day, I'm only here for a little while. So you have to have complete trust in your magistrate. And you got to know that whatever they're telling you is true. And you have to build a relationship out of that. And in all the cities where I work, working with magistrates, we have a trust relationship when they tell you things that you might not like to hear. or they can tell you that, you know, that this person in jail has whatever, or they're giving you the details to let you know what's going on. So you have to have a relationship with those people. You have to trust them, and you have to know that they know what they're doing. And, you know, you said, well, Lee, you said this probably 5 times. That's because I mean it. The people that you have as magistrates do a really good job, and they've done a good job for a long time. And, you know, I believe in telling people they do a good job. I believe in telling the police they do a good job. A lot of times they don't get patted on the back and say, you know something, you made a good case. Like y'all have one of the best, y'all may know this, one of the best narcotic interdiction units anywhere. And like a lot of times, my clients I have now, the prosecutor or the drug task force will come say, you think you could work it out for them to turn state's evidence and work out their case if they'd help us make some drug arrests? And, you know, most of the time, they'd much rather do that than go to jail. But you gotta have a working relationship with these people. You look at Sheriff Mike Hale, he gave me an opportunity to go teach at the Sheriff's Academy. And this is a pretty interesting deal how that came about. I had a friend of mine, Scott Langner, and he was teaching the deputies, and he had a stroke. And Mike called me and asked me, he said, would you, and it 2 days in before I had to start teaching, he said, would you come teach? Well, I had no idea why. I mean, I didn't even read the book. And he was nice enough to give me that opportunity. And we worked it out for Scotty where he could get paid the rest of that year. I mean, he needed it because he had a stroke. He didn't have any other means of income, and that really helped him. But you deal with I've dealt with a lot of Christian, good, decent people. And I didn't say this earlier, that I don't offend anybody. I am a Christian. I believe in I am a hard Christian. I'm a Christian that believes that if you make a mistake, you've got to do something for your mistake. But I do believe in being a Christian. It's important to me. And I am a Methodist, so if you notice, I put that on my resume. Some people won't. I mean, that's something I believe in my heart. You got to believe in your heart. And in my life, you know, I've seen a number of miracles work out, and I've seen a number of miracles work out in the court, where you've taken people that have been on drugs. I had a lady in Fultondale. I'd lock her up. Her mom and them, they'd come say she'd go do something, and they wanted a problem finding her doing a crime. And they'd ask us to lock her up through Christmas and New Year's, where they'd know where she was, where she wouldn't be dead. And we'd lock her up. And she came to me and she says, I think I'm going to get straight. And I said, you ain't going to get straight. You ain't got straight 20 other times. How's it going to work this time? So I'm going to do it. And she managed to go to the place over in Bessemer, I can't remember, the Foundry, and got straightened out. Got her license back, got off drugs, managed to go get her line. So every now, I know that that's far reaching, but every now and then you see a miracle, and that's a miracle to me. You're talking about taking somebody who's on heroin, you know, and heroin, we deal with a lot of heroin here. It's very addictive, and it'll make you do things that you probably wouldn't have done if you've been sober. But anyway, if you got any more questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I'm going to give Mayor opportunity to ask you a
I
question.
think I'll defer with just one comment and say I'm glad you quit drinking alcohol, if that's what Coke does to you.
I don't need alcohol. I'm happy. If some people say, well, I need a drink to calm me down, I'm happy anyway. I'm a lot happier doing that.
They got a place down in Hoover called the Comedy Club. You ever been there?
No. Last time I tried that one time when I was in college, people thought, oh, you're really funny. That's when they pelted me with the rolls. I got pelted. And I knew then, I said, I'm not that funny. I wish I was that funny. If I was, I'd be wearing a Porter Wagner suit and plugging myself in and telling somebody somewhere in America, send me a check. But I better do what I'm good at. And I'm pretty good at judging. I know how to do that job pretty good.
We're good. And Councilman, any other questions from the council? Everybody's good?
Well, Lee, I'm gonna tell you, you have won my wife over because she's just crazy about you.
Well, that's very kind, I appreciate it.
Did she get a vote on the council?
She don't get a vote. You don't get a vote.
Rock's in.
She don't get a vote. She don't get a vote.
Rock's here in.
She don't get a vote, lady.
This is I really try to do this in all my life if I can, is treat people all the same if you can. Now, some people won't let you. They just won't let you, but try.
You can say that again, Lee. I promise you.
That's not part of it.
Amen.
All right, I'm gonna give you a closing statement, in the last few minutes that we have.
Have I run over my time?
No, you're good. We're gonna make sure, we come into this meeting and make sure you stay on time.
Okay.
But,
James, time?
no, we can't.
No, your time.
But in your closing statement, Lee, you know, dealing with youth for most of my life out of college, and I'm very passionate about our youth, not just Irondale, but all over. I'm very passionate about that. How involved would you be in our youth here in the city of Irondale?
This is
your closing, this is your
I
part.
give my closing statement. One of my best friends in this world is a fellow named Dr. Carl Marbury. The mayor knows him. He's a great American. He went, and the reason I'm going to give you this background, just so you know who he is a little bit. In I think in the early 60s, 61 or 62, he got a full scholarship to Harvard University, a doctoral degree. And as he told me, there were only 2 black folks there in college. It was him and another person. And then midway through, he didn't have enough money. And these 2 widow women, or 2, I guess, spinsters, took him in and managed to, and he went and got his doctoral degree because of their help. They gave him money and helped him. And this is going to tell you how this helps the youth. And he and I got together we started working together about 20 years ago. We've really been working for 15 years. How are you going to make a difference in youth's lives? His whole goal in life is to make a difference in people's lives. He's probably taught me more about that than anybody. And I represent the lead school and school hearing officer of the lead school. And our goal is to try to figure out how to get people graduate, how to help them, how to keep kids from getting on drugs, how to help kids from having a bad influence. How do we get kids that don't have any parents at home to care? How do I get them to stay? How do I get them to go to class? What can we do? So we started a mentoring, tutoring, and counseling program that I'll help, and we have everybody's volunteer. And we bring in people to try to talk to the youth and come up with a plan for them. Because what I find dealing with them is there are a lot of people that never tell them they love them and never tell them they can succeed. And it's a real passion in my heart helping the youth. Because when I grew up out in Leeds, and there were a number of kids that if they had somebody take more interest in them, they'd been better off. And a lot of times, the only interest they get is if they're in sports from a coach, coaching, or trying to coach them. Well, my goal is to try and figure out how to get them to understand that if you will go make A's and B's and try and go to school, we can help you succeed. I can help you find a career. You don't have to go be a college graduate to be successful. You can become a master plumber, a master electrician, a certified mechanic. Those things, if I can go help one person. Now, we have some that don't make it. You know, I've had them cuss me, I've had them threaten to beat me up, but we've had a lot that did make it. I had one girl that her mama, her daddy ran off, her mama got on drugs, she's living in her car, but the kid was a bright kid. And I talked to her and I said, you know, you can do something with your life. So we managed to find some people she could stay. I mean, it comes down to you got to find somebody for them to stay with. Managed to get her graduated, and through Charlie Waldrop's help, got her a full scholarship to Jackson State University. And she was by my office the other day, and she said, my life is better today than when I was in high school. She said, I get however many meals, 3 meals a day, and have a room with heat and air, and she's going to be a nurse. So to answer your question, is my commitment to youth is, anything I can do, if you will direct me, I will try to help. I will help with money, I will help with my time, and I'll help with my experience. Now, one of the biggest problems we experience with the school system out in Leeds is getting kids to school. I can't get them to school. So we're basically having an early warning program where we go meet with them, we'll go knock on their door and tell them, you gotta get to school. If you don't get to school, how are you ever going to pass? For, you look at athletes, as you just talk to people in percentages. There's only so many people going to make it to college. There's only so many people going to make it to pro. Well, let's figure out how you can make it regardless and be successful. Now, let's say we have somebody that's a youth that gets in trouble. Most of them go to family court. They go to family court. Like I said earlier, if you get a driving citation and we work with you, try some driving school. But better yet, I deal with a lot between 18 and 21. They end up with possession of alcohol, DUI, possession of marijuana. If it's your first case, do a deferred, what a deferred prosecution means, you gotta go to drug testing, whenever your color comes up. You gotta go to 24 classes, and you gotta pay us some money. But try to figure out how they don't have that on their record, and they're better off. You could look at, then you could give them a youthful offender status and seal their record forever, where it won't be used against them. But to answer, the one thing that Dr. Marbury taught me, and I was riding down the road with him one day, and I said, Dr. Marbury, I said, why ain't you just filthy rich? He's a Harvard graduate, brilliant. If I got him in here to pray for us, he gets to help. He's a fantastic human being. And he told me, he says, make a difference in somebody's life. He said, that's what those women taught me. And he said, that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I ask you to do. To make a difference in one person's life. Well, the one thing that, being the judge, you get the opportunity to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. Sometimes it's hard. You got to tell them things they don't want to hear. But sometimes you get to see the glory of them getting better, of them doing better. Well, that's just my opinion. But to answer your question, I think that more people will take interest in you the way you have, the way a lot of other people have. I'm sure you've seen success stories yourself. I have no doubt in my mind that because one person cared and told them they could do it. And that's my opinion. So that's strictly my opinion. But that's the way I feel.
Thanks again, Mr. Barnes, for coming out. Appreciate you coming out tonight, and be safe going home.
I will. I might give me another coat. I'm looser than a look for a man my size. Agility.
But the council, is, I know we know it's a quick process that we have to go through. This takes a while. But the council will discuss it. I'm not sure.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
We're going to move the process forward.
Thank you very much. I thank y'all for letting me work with y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Appreciate it very much.
Mr. McNally, we got some good candidates that came across. It's going to be a tough decision for us. So council, I know you're probably not ready for a decision tonight. Well, I just asked the question.
I'm ready.
Councilman Wilson?
I'll go with the council. I'm still undecided, but, I can go ahead.
I'm down to 2, and the recommendation speaks volumes for 1.
Yeah, I'm down to 2 also.
I would echo Steve.
Down to 2 also.
Yeah.
Councilman Beard?
Well, Lee Barnes is my first choice, and Everett West for my second.
So we,
Yeah.
let me just start with, that's just this feedback on this thing.
Yeah, say something. That's fine, something.
Yeah, I think it's back there. But let's start with Councilman Spivey.
Sure, strengths, I mean, Lee Lawrence, obviously, he knows the system, he knows, he's already worked well with, the people that matter as far as the court's concerned. I think that speaks volumes. He's got a tremendous amount of experience, letters of recommendation, several, very well written, very highly spoken of. I also like Terry, I think highly of Everett. I think he's worked a lot of high-profile cases. Those are the two that I'm deciding on right now. Do you want to know who I choose? Is that where we're going with this?
That's
Okay.
so West and,
Yeah, I would go with Lee and Everett as being my two choices. Lee being on the top, Everett being behind.
okay. All right. Councilman Marino?
Same order, and after reading the recommendations, especially from the current judges involved with the city, that threw mine to Lee Barnes.
Okay. Councilman Beard?
Lee?
Lee and West, you say?
Yeah.
Councilman Wilson?
Lee and West are my two. I think Everett brings much experience based on his previous cases and his previous experience as far as the type of trials he's had. And in Lee's case, Lee had been with the city for several years. He understands, the cases here. He understands the type of cases we have. He knows our system already.
Have we had approval of the agenda yet?
Yes.
All right, then I'll make a motion that Lee Barnes be appointed municipal judge for the city of
Let
Irondale.
me go right here, let me go this way,
Okay.
if you don't mind. We, have Barnes and West, and we're just gonna go down the road with a show of hands. I think that's the best way we can do it. Is that, if we want Everett West to be our municipal judge, just show of yes. Yes vote. Councilman Spivey, Councilman Marino, Councilman Beard, and
No.
Councilman Lewis.
Do what now?
We're trying to vote on West or Barnes.
Okay. I'm still tied up on the two.
Okay. Lee Barnes as our city attorney. Councilman Spivey?
Aye.
Yes. Councilman Moreno?
As our city attorney? Hold on.
I'm sorry. Judge.
City judge.
Court judge. We got through that process, city attorney. That was our court judge. Councilman
That's
Spivey? Yes. Councilman
Yes.
Moreno? Councilman Barnes? And Councilman Wilson is still.
All right, now, I've made a motion, I need a second. We're gonna vote.
Let's get the, we gotta go through the process first. Okay? All right, so we're saying Lee Barnes is our city, or judge.
If we have three
Do we have any discussion?
Well, you need a motion.
I made the motion already, I'm making the motion.
Well, you got the motion.
All right, I got the motion. Lee Barnes is municipal judge for city of Irondale.
All right, second on that. All right, we got a motion by Councilman Beard. Got a second by Councilman Marino. All right, now, any discussion?
I think either one will do. I think both of them are good candidates, honestly. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, so any more discussion on that?
We have someone who serves as backup judge currently, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
We have someone that who is that?
There's an alternate, Bishop.
Judge Bishop. It's an
to
alternate.
the game, good recommendation.
I have another question. Currently, Mr. Barnes serves as our prosecutor. He's what? Oh, he's indigent.
Not the prosecutor.
Who's our prosecutor?
Walter. It's our.
Oh, y'all still serve the prosecutor
Yeah.
also?
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
So he's an indigent.
okay. All
So would that create a gap as that prosecution? Do we have to do something to fill that?
No, they're serving as prosecutor.
No, the
No,
indigent.
he's
For
a public
That's
defender.
that's
Oh,
what
he's
I
the
want to
indigent. Okay.
He's a
Okay.
public defender for the city.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he's a public defender for the city.
We'll have to hire a public defender.
Yeah, they're, the Washington firm is the prosecution attorneys. All right, any more discussion? All right, we got
Well, I
a,
think that would leave a gap if we're voting on the judge, that would leave a gap as far as the indigent attorney.
It does, and that's an appointment by the mayor.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Okay.
okay, we got a motion, we got a second, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of Lee Barnes being our city attorney? Aye. Okay, that's in the,
Judge.
judge. I'm trying to get rid of you guys, I'm trying to get rid of you guys, I guess.
Municipal judge.
I'm trying to get rid of you, Brandon, I guess.
For all the motions, then, John.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll go back to number one, make sure we get it all right. It was dissolved, the resolution 2016 R177 to appoint, and we'll put Lee Barnes' name there as our municipal judge.
So moved.
Got one motion there from Marino, second, anyone?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Beard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Lee Barnes is our municipal judge?
Any opposed?
Any opposed? No opposed. So Lee Barnes is our municipal judge. And he's probably still out there outside and with his coat. Can you take a look and see if he's out there?
I noticed in the vending machines, all the pictures.
I got his phone number, when we call him.
I'll just say that recommendation from Judge Bell, well recommended.
Yeah.
I would hire myself if he wrote one for me.
I give him a call if he's not there.
Thank you.
Call him, let him know. All right. Any other, can I get a? He's gone? Okay. All right. Just for 1 second, Tommy McNabb, Mr. McNabb, I know you'll be working hand in hand with the judge, and we pray that the decision is okay with you guys. Okay. All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion, second?
You vote on the
All in
other
favor?
stuff yet? The use before out here, how it all go? All of it, yes? Okay. All right.
Hey,